Now back to the sermon. The fall of America and the European Union makes sense. Now, if you're offended and think the rich are job creators and should be able to hoard as much wealth as they want, you should be supporters of all people in America and Europe taking a 30% wage cut, including you, to allow the elite to hoard more cash, and then we can all work harder and have less so the elite can have more. That way, maybe they'll make more jobs. I mean, there was zero unemployment in the time of slavery, because when a greedy, ungodly man can get you to work for nothing, he will gladly do it, and he doesn't care about your suffering, and often will be offended if you complain and want justice. A person of God cares about the suffering of others. So maybe if you conservatives take a voluntary pay cut to support the elite, since for many of you it will come by force anyway, you can say you're in support of the redistribution of wealth towards the ungodly elite. The average person, and basically you're saying the average person doesn't need money or wealth. And that means you should be able to do without it. And trust me, I'm not trying to build a welfare state either. There has to be balance. I'm not interested in a bunch of lazy people getting paid good to get no education and do absolutely nothing but live off welfare from my hard work. I don't need parasites, rich or poor. So basically, there has to be balance. A strong middle class, and I say, the world needs custodians too. Now, I'm not, and I know with too much socialism or too much communism, there's no desire to get an education. There's no desire. I mean, if a guy can make the same amount as a doctor just being a janitor, why should he care? And that's because that's ungodly behavior. So there has to be balance, and really that balance comes down to how well society behaves. Because if everybody's aspiring to be a doctor, well, we don't need everybody as a doctor. So some people are still going to have to clean the toilet bowl, But that person that cleans the toilet bowl or is the custodian, he needs a good fair wage also. That factory worker. Factory workers are necessary. They deserve a good fair wage. Can't everybody be the CEO? There has to be balance. And people have to realize being as good and godly as you can first. And then that balance will come right, because people have an understanding of what's a truly good society. The more ungodly society is, the more chaotic it's going to be, and the more oppressed it's going to be, because certain people naturally want to hoard all the wealth, and that's the strong will naturally hoard all the wealth. So there has to be balance, and like I say, a janitor, I believe there should be an upper middle class, basically, and a lower middle class. In a depending on, because we're not all perfect, and I understand that. But when the wealth gap becomes so wide around the world, with people making $1 a day, they can't buy anything in our country making $1 a day. They can't buy anything in America making $1 a day. They can't buy most things in Europe making $1 a day. That's ridiculous. So let me go back to the sermon. Now let me say this. I don't hate you just because you're conservative, but I'm trying to show you the need to turn to God and break the mindset you've been bred into. Since many conservatives go along with the plan of redistribution of wealth towards the elite, and the elite are always figuring out other more sneaky ways to take the wealth from the middle class anyway, partially by convincing you that they're so good and holy, but by you going along with and supporting them, having more off the backs of other people who usually don't have their connections to people or opportunities to get wealth. You are supporting redistribution of wealth towards them, and unless in the end you are liked by these ungodly people, and that is usually only because you're willing to go along with their evil, greedy schemes, then you will be one of those that they very well may treat unfairly and oppress. And this is the reason I call the conservative mindset the brown-nosed mindset, because it supports a few ungodly people having more power and control over too much wealth and the masses. Now, mind you, I don't agree with the sinful mindset of liberals either. I call that buffoonery. That many of your liberal brothers and sisters have been taught by the elite to keep them from having a sustainable, strong movement for a fair, just, good society. That is why I tell you all, God is the only way. Good, humane, rational behavior. So don't be shocked as America and the European Union fall. Ungodly leaders of this world wanted to fall in the name of capitalism. Unless the people turn to God and treat each other right and stop poverty and oppression, not only in these countries, but all around the world. So you see, there has to be balance around the world. I mean, let's face it, the man making $12 a day in China, and he's working 16 hours sometimes, maybe who knows how much he works. He can't buy nothing we make in America for $15 an hour, $20 an hour. He can't buy that. And so capitalism says go over there and exploit these people and impoverish people in Europe and America. And like I said, and I always tell people, I'm not interested in building a welfare state either. And I understand unions can be too powerful. Because see, like I said, this is not about social concepts. It's about people following God and bettering their behavior. So this is why no social concept around the world ever works. Be it capitalism, communism, none ever work. And the reason American and the European Union have flourished is because of the socialist nature of these countries. They're not hardcore capitalism, but they're not hardcore communism. They float in the middle. And this is why they flourish for a while. And you conservatives, the reason I call that the brown-nosing mentality, and it's not to just kick you. It's to get you to see be it a slave master, whatever, it's ungodly behavior. No matter what you call a king, it doesn't matter. The way they set up their power structure, those more or less closer to him that live better on the material food chain, for lack of a better word, they go along with what he likes because they're doing it. They got their peasants, or they got their workers underneath them, their slaves, whatever it be. So they're living pretty good off the backs of other people suffering. So they tend to go along with the policies of the elite. And you see that with the Republican Party in various other countries. They call it different things. But they're more the people that live materially well. They tend to be more conservative. And this is the reason the more oppressed people, the poorer people, tend to be liberal, because this is where the mindsets come from. It comes from where you are on the social scale, usually. I mean, and I know there's some variation in that. But for the most part, in general, it comes from where they are on the social scale. So this is why poor people always have more of a communist mentality, and rich people always have more of a capitalist mentality. Say in America. Now they call it different things in different parts of the world. It simply comes from where people are on the social scale, because nobody likes to be the oppressed. No, I always say, and I try to get people past racism. I don't care if this world was all white, it was all black, all Asian, all Latino. It don't matter. Somebody got to clean the toilet bowl. Now, are we all going to behave well and take our turn at cleaning the toilet bowl? Or is the strong going to say, no, I'm going to make him clean the toilet bowl every day, and I'm going to sit back and do nothing while he suffers? And if you understand ungodly behavior and the way people think, you understand this is why these two mindsets become relevant, because the oppressed feel more of a need to work together and stick together communally, where the elite, they're living good and they got the oppressors underneath them, so they really don't care. Now, usually what happens in a revolution, there's a revolution, so the people get lifted from their oppression, but then their ungodly behavior makes them turn on each other. Because it all comes down to sin. A society comes down to the sinful behavior of people. So I hope you learned something and why we need to turn to God. I always tell people, quit using these credit cards. Okay, credit cards allow them to hyperinflate a society. We have to care about our oppressed brothers and sisters all around the world. Okay, because we have to we need, I'm in favor of a global currency only because I want to know what my brother's making in China. I want to know he's making a good wage, similar to mine, for the same work. Because I don't like seeing capitalism being able to go around the world and find cheap labor. And we as people have to stop supporting this. And we as people have to stick up against this. Because this is the only way to stop. And this is the only way to guarantee America's future as a decent country. And these other countries, I don't agree with these people living impoverished, living in these slums and all. And to the elite, if you hate me, well then, how about you come to my slave camp and I'll put you in the slums and I'll let you live that way and you can tell the world that it's okay afterwards. And I'll treat you like crap, and if you speak up, I'll club you in the head with a stick and whip you and everything else. And then you can tell everybody how good your experience in life was. God values people not because you were able to hoard all the wealth in life. God values you by what you did to better humanity and ease human suffering. And like I said, it's not about building a welfare state. It's about people learning to behave and understanding they have to behave and understanding, trying your best to live the way God tells you to live, which is a humane way, is the way. Because when everybody likes their sinful behavior, they're going to fight with each other and they're going to crush each other. And they become of no value to each other. Because somebody who's always hurting me has no value to me. I just have to tolerate. Somebody who's working me dirt cheap and doesn't care about me, they have no value to me. I have to tolerate them sometimes for the paycheck, but they have no value to me. I mean, given the circumstances, I wouldn't help them. I'm better off without them. Why would I want to help them? So I hope everyone turns to God and sees being good and humane is the way. God bless and have a good day.